Some people might get jittery hands or they might start to sweat more. Some people might have a racing heart or speak really quickly if they're nervous or afraid. Our stress is no different. If we don't understand it and know it, we don't have the ability to interact with it in a healthy way. It kind of has us under its foot.
So, Roberta, a lot of people use yoga in a way to manage their stress. And you've recently written a great blog article about redefining people's relationship with stress. Tell us what that means to you.
So, the title of the blog is called Making Friends with Stress. And when you think about this idea, it almost seems impossible or even absurd. Like, how can you make friends with your stress? And through my years of yoga practice, I have learned that the more I can make friends with all of the parts of myself, the more familiar I become with them, and the less held down or held back I am by them. So when we think about developing a healthy relationship with stress, first we need to get to know it. Just like if a neighbor moves in next door, you need to get to know that person so that you can interact with them in a positive way. Our stress is no different. If we don't understand it and know it, we don't have the ability to interact with it in a healthy way. It kind of has us under its foot. So when you develop that relationship, get to know what causes stress in your life and get to know how you respond to stress. For each of us, that is different. Um, some people might get jittery hands or they might start to sweat more. Some people might have a racing heart or speak really quickly if they're nervous or afraid. So, getting to learn your responses to those symptoms of stress is really helpful so that you can start to become a little more friendly with them and alter those behaviors, alter the things that do provide stress symptoms in your life. And not only to make it work for you, but to be able to manage it. So over time, the more awareness you have, you'll start to be able to manage it before it even happens. If you know you're going into a situation where your stress symptoms become high, what can you do before you go into that situation to help bring your um, response down so that you're not as triggered or as highly triggered as you might normally be? I think stress is helpful when we need to perform, when we need to execute certain things, when the risk is high, because that stress response puts us in action mode. It puts us in that flight or fight response. So our energy goes up, our response time is quick, and we're able to take action. All of those things can be useful, especially in leadership and in big companies when you need to make a presentation, you need to close a deal that's important to the business, important to the company.
Mm.
Maybe you're interviewing for a new position. Stress can be good in all of those situations as long as you then have tools to recover from the stress after the situation is over.
If you stay within your comfort zone all the time, nothing really ever happens, no action, etc. It's on the very edge of your comfort zone or just beyond it is where great things happen. But when you go too far, that's when it can be quite debilitating. So stress, when you let it compound, when you let it snowball, when you don't have ways of managing your stress, of course it will get debilitating. And I think everyone listening to the show needs to be aware of their stress signals and their stress cues and making sure that it doesn't get to that debilitating point. But in some respects, when you say make friends with stress, being able to push yourself a little bit just outside your comfort zone where great things happen. What are your thoughts on that parallel?
I teach a style of yoga called Yin Yoga, and they're passive postures that we stay in for 5 minutes each, which can sound like a long time, but it really gives you the opportunity to develop the self-awareness of how you respond to stress. So we're putting stress on the physical body, And I always say to keep your barometer just right. So if you pull away and it becomes boring, your mind checks out, starts thinking about your grocery list, something other than what you're doing. If you push too deep, the body really responds to that stress. It gets triggered. The muscles tighten and tense. The brain usually becomes really negative in its feedback, and it takes you into this miserable suffering experience. So if you can regulate and get the barometer to where the stress is just enough for you to explore it, get to know it, be with it without reacting to it, it will transform how you approach almost anything in your life.
Yeah, that's a wonderful summary there, Roberta. Thank you for sharing that. And I think all of us, in all aspects of our life, can learn from that. Nothing changes if we don't push ourselves just that little bit. So, yeah, really good, Roberta. Thank you.